Okay, Aditi, our video has gone live. People can see us. You can just like wave and say hi.
Yeah, I was just gonna do that. Just a button.
To make sure we don't have weird, awkward silences, Aditi likes to listen to blues, so here's some dope blue music for you. Thank you so much for coming on. So excited to have you, learn from you, and understand your story on how you got started in the space. I think one of the first things that just like us to ask you, and I think everyone would be super curious to know, is how did you get involved in crypto in the first place?
Yeah, so I don't have like a very glamorous story, of me discovering some hidden about getting some inspiration and, I found some hidden treasures, which was on the cloud or which was on the internet called Bitcoin. I just got into the space pretty recently. And my reason was very tactical, being a community builder myself. And what I started seeing, second half of last year was a lot of Web3 projects were approaching us. We were already working with a couple of Web2 ones to look at community. And, in this space that Web3 is, given that it's so community driven, these projects were at the core of what they were trying to build, even before product this was coming. So, obviously the importance, the kind of innovation that you can do, the kind of autonomy that you get, and the spectrum of strategy that you can look at, the pay scale, all of these things are tremendously different and on the positive side of things. So that made me look at Web3 as a space from the community angle. So that was my entry gate. And once I did that, there was just so much to learn, many new things to discover, so to satiate your curious mind, which was anyway in that zone. But I was looking to build things, and I was in that journey. And in that process, I started discovering these little elements, sort of, which comprise the Web3 ecosystem, whether it's been the DAOs, DeFi, gaming, NFTs, all of that. And as a natural progression, as a natural arm, like an extended body part to what my professional work of body is, DAOs started making immediate sense to me. That how throughout this we've been building communities, and we, anyway, in some or the other way, have had polls. We've always tried to involve more people, in the decision making and engagement of the community. DAOs just gave it a much more formal structure. So yeah, that was my start into Web3, and then just learning in this space, meeting more and more people got me interested about the other elements as well. But would still very much consider myself a noob, and I'm still learning so much. Like DAO structuring has been something I've been stuck with for weeks now.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like Web3 is such an ever evolving space. Like every day there is new stuff to learn. You will not find an expert in this space. So definitely like a constant learning journey. I'd love to know your perspective on why is it important to involve women in Web3? That is just something we've been hearing on for such a long time, like long time meaning like for the past year when NFT projects like World of Women came out, or like other women centric project. Why do you think has there been such a focus on bringing women on board, especially in Web3?
I think, it just seems like now's the time when we can actually do it, right? Like a lot of things went wrong when we were looking at Web2, right? And things are at that stage where, now if you try to make those grassroots efforts, it just looks like mammoth already, right? There are these tech structures, there are these massive leadership teams and stuff. So when we know that this new revolution is just coming up, and we can, now that we're just starting, because to us who are in Web3, it looks like a very big community. But if you look at it from an outsider's perspective, it's still a very close-knit, very small community. So we're just at the brink, of what could be a major thing. And if we do it right now, if we have like a gender parity maintained from the very start, it just makes things super easy, right? Plus, why not? Like, there shouldn't be any reason why one gender or any one gender is not included really. So it's just so normal that all people who are operating in the system should be a part of it. That ideally, and in a utopian world, we won't have to make extra efforts to have one particular gender.
Yeah.
Handhold them a lot more or take them a farther, like a longer distance. But I think that's the reality, because a lot of cascading has happened from tech to, like, most of the people who've come into this space, all of us, like, that's where our tech comes from. Yeah. But it's a more open space, it's more decentralized, it accommodates for more remote work, it accommodates for new experiments, and everyone's learning. So I think now is a great time to, just sort of remediate that gender disparity which was created in the previous Web N version that we had, Web 2 version.
Yeah,
So
for
yeah.
sure. There was a really interesting statistic that came out, I think, last year, which is OpenSea did the same transaction volume like the Visa card did, like the debit card company Visa. And there were they did the same, like billions, trillions of dollars, whatever, in volume of sales. But the transactions that came out of OpenSea were just from 400,000 wallets versus, you can imagine, Visa's market, right? And out of those 400,000, only 10% of them were women. So we are in just such early days, that's not even like the 0.01% population of the world. And like you said, Web3 accommodates so much more. And women like wear so many hats, right? Like from being a wife to being a mom to being a friend and so on and so forth. You can really decide on your own times, your own conditions, and make the best out of it. So it's super, super exciting to see what you are building and educating women about Web3 so they can leverage this space. I would love for you to just dive deeper into what was your passion behind starting Superwoman DAO, and how has that journey been?
It's been a journey that I wasn't really expecting or planned on, but that's how serendipity really works for you. So Superwoman DAO started in May 2022. We'll be closing in on our third month in a couple of days. And my idea was just that, because I don't have I don't have proper compartmentalization, and in no way I endorse, non-existence of work-life balance, but that's who I am. Like, my friends, perforate into my work life colleagues perforate into my personal life. And when I started working in Web3, I started realizing that, okay, cool, I do have some friends, but I just don't have any girlfriends in this space. I don't know any women in this space. And just out of curiosity or that intuition, I'm like, cool, let me organize something at my place. And I just put up this post on Twitter, and I was expecting some 15, 20 people, women would be interested, but in an hour, and truly in an hour, over 100 women registered. And I was like,
That's
okay,
crazy.
cool, great. I mean, but I was doing it at my home. I wasn't planning like a meetup or anything, so I could only at max accommodate 40 women, out of which 39 showed up. And that was my first indicator that, okay, definitely women want it. Even if I wasn't planning on building it, your user, your customers, your people in the industry, your fellow members are telling you that, okay, they are looking for something like this. And to this date, I'm trying to understand, okay, what's that technical reason that, women want a separate space for themselves to learn and to find mentors and everything. It's difficult to point because you can find all of these things if you go to those gender neutral meetups and if you're part of any Web3 community, right?
Yeah.
Gender specific or not.
Yeah.
But once the community started forming up, right, from those 40 women, and then those 40 women in the next 5-6 days created a 200 women community, and now we're over 1,700 women in Web3 in Superwoman's community and trying on different experiments.
Yeah.
What I realized was it was completely the relatability aspect of it, right? Today you're a woman, I am a woman, and there's just this thing in me which makes me tell that, okay, if I'm going to post something about some of my experience, she's not going to think that I'm stupid or I'm making a fool of myself here, probably will relate a lot more,
For sure.
from her own personal experience than someone, however empathetic, any other person from any other gender from the industry is.
Yeah.
And I think the ecosystem's really been very, very supportive of having everyone. And I think also having this community of women specifically is a great way to put out role models for other women. Because what I've also seen is that it's more on the women to turn up. We were just having this conversation in Superwoman community a day or two ago where everyone was like, we went to this event, I am part of this hackathon, I'm part of this startup, and yet all of it seems like some sort of tech bro fraternity. There's such few women. And I'm like, who's stopping? Nobody's stopping these women. Why are they not turning up?
Yeah.
So I think just knowing that, okay, cool, it's something that if she's doing it, I can do it as well. Having those right role models, mentors, maybe not full time, but if you have a question, you can just post it. You can share your personal experiences. Having those friends. If I know that, okay, if I'm going to ever go to this meetup, or if I'm going to ever participate in this hackathon, or if I'm going to be building this project, there are a lot more people like me, in gender similarity who are already there.
Right.
So that just helps. That just helps me get onboarded to the ecosystem. Now there are women who, before every event, they check in the group who all are going, and then they have this power-packed group, and then they're going, and then they're ruling there instead of being that little women's corner, that they would belong to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's more empowerment
Yeah.
than cascades into education and then collaboration and then also building together. So yeah, it's been very thrilling. It's been a lot of experiments, a lot of understanding on my end also, because like I mentioned, I don't understand how DAOs really work. How do I structure it? How does the legal entity part of it really works? How do we find who should be a contributor, who shouldn't be? The voting, the governance side of things, and how do you really know that, okay, this person could be a legitimate contributor? This is how you can divide the work, and skills mapping, and then work assessment, and all of those things. And how is the DAO actually making money? We have treasury sponsors, and most of them, our contributors are on a promise of like SAFT model, but our sponsors are more our partners because they want to advance this cause of having more women in the overall tech ecosystem and Web3 itself.
Right.
So yeah, it's been very interesting to see everyone, just come together and then experiment, and then all of us in the community, a lot of us in the community going bonkers over wanting to try new things.
Yeah.
Something like a pub quiz night for Web3 education, or something like a Superhumans of Web3 media series, all of those things. Because being part of a DAO, I have that freedom to do these things. Now, if I were a company only professing one particular cause, even if I wanted to, I would still want to stick to my brand and stuff. Because your identity is that these are all women in Web3, all sorts of ideas and initiatives can be done. So yeah, it's a very nice spot right now. Once we grow in one particular direction, that will be something interesting, more interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have so many questions, but first I want to ask you, how many followers did you have at that point where 50 people signed up for this meetup?
Oh, you don't want to know, honestly. So what happened was that I didn't have anyone until March on my Twitter, probably like 120 people or something.
Yeah.
And then finally I post about a house. That post blows up, which got me like a lot of, some interesting people following from the ecosystem, because at that point, and this is all, speculative data, but I think that was the time where a lot of Web3 people were moving in Bangalore, and then they would come ahead and following the lead of that house post. And just after that, a month later in April, I made this post, right, where I wanted to host something for women and stuff. So I think because of that, a lot of people picked up. So I think I was somewhere around 500 followers on Twitter at that point. And in Superwoman, though, I just started the page, and formally everything started in May.
That's insane. That is such an exciting story and very like Bangalore kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah. Every week is one peak Bengaluru moment for me. I'm guessing it's for a lot of other people as well.
Definitely. My gosh. So, community is the foundation of everything that is being built in Web3. What is one of the biggest things you've learned building the community at Superwoman DAO?
Okay, and I mean, of course, here and there I might keep throwing a couple of unpopular opinions at the audience. Not everyone may agree with it. But what I've really realized is that, and this is a learning which is very common, that initially when I started looking at it, I'm like, cool, everyone's woke, everyone wants decentralization, everyone wants to do their own thing. But when I started really working on my thing and doing my, trying to figure out my own wallet and, the first NFT buy and all of those things, it just sort of made me realize that not everyone's really going to care how these things functions on the back end. Like even to this day, people don't know how an email protocol works or how an HTTP protocol really works. It's going to become a lot about user journey. So it's going to be the fundamental principles which will bring people to Web3, but what will keep people to Web3 is the ease of things. Right? People may not really want to know what's happening on the back end. A lot of users, I mean, believe it or not everyone will be as bullish on decentralization, and a lot of people will be bullish on, convenience which also helps them with data privacy, convenience which also helps them with ownership. So, yeah.
That's insane. Piggybacking off that conversation, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who is building a community in Web3? I feel like since people know, whether it's an NFT project, whether it's a DAO, for any of them to be successful, like community is what turns the wheels. So I feel like a lot of people building communities for the sake of it, just to have some numbers up on Discord. versus people actually building a real community? Because I've seen the way people speak about, Superwoman DAO. They speak like they belong there. They feel attached to the mission and the cause, and it really feels alive. So, how did you manage to do that? What is one advice you give?
I think first of all is I don't look myself as a community moderator there. I just enjoy talking to these women. I mean, if Superwoman wasn't there, it would be some other WhatsApp group which I have created, which I would have created probably with fewer women, or a Discord with fewer women, who I would just be going out to party with or to have these, heated Web3 debates and discussions with and stuff. So I still look at it that way. Second thing is, any community can really be successful where there's not just 1, 2, or 5 people contributing to it. What I have seen is being part of Herculean number of servers and groups and Telegram groups and all of these communities is that a lot of people mistake broadcasting and just building an audience as against building a community. Right? If today my server is something where only it's just me, my moderator, and one admin and someone who takes care of events and maybe 1 or 2 people. It's just these people speaking on the general chatter. Other people are not really coming in and speaking or excited to talk and just retaining there. Then that's what the community absorbs and sees. That, okay, these are the only people who are talking here, and why should I go ahead and speak and then make a fool of myself? Something like that. A lot of people have these inhibitions to just start posting. But once they see that, everyone's so excited, there's so many new people who are posting, it's not just the moderator or anyone, just that one person helping everyone on everything. It's more like, okay, this time some request comes in and this person is able to help with them. Another time another request comes in, the 4th person is able to help. So things like that's what, if you see, that's how Superwoman is being functioning like that. That's how we're engaged. That, whatever my expertise is, I come in there, but everybody else knows that, okay, if we all have to help here. It's a giver-first community. Our idea to build that community was, obviously, we want it to be for the learners, but initially, when I started looking at talking to women and onboarding them, I wanted to have givers more. So even if there's like 10 givers, and then when learners are coming in, there's someone who's already there to help them build something. Otherwise, it becomes a group of people who all want to look for something, understand something, but there's nobody really to guide them. That doesn't really work. So having a giving first community, having a community where a significant percentage of your community members engage with each other, this is really important to get the new joinees. Otherwise, it's just be that few people talking, the others just being part of that server or that group or that community, but never really moving beyond or promoting themselves beyond a lurker.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really, really important insight. And like you said, how do the newcomers feel? Do they feel hesitant that, I don't see other people talking, I don't want to make a fool out of myself? And I feel like that happens on a lot of servers. It's phenomenal what you've built, those real relationships. It's hard to build on Discord because there's so much anonymity. People are not seeing each other. They're not familiar with each other. So to create that real sense of belonging in a Discord server, by no means should be discounted. And I think it's amazing. Talk about some of the challenges one would face early on building a DAO. What were some of the challenges you faced?
So one thing is, so I worked on this thesis where I was like, cool, because Superwoman is a DAO, the first thing that I am supposed to do is have a token and everything, but I wasn't really bought on the idea. One, because I myself didn't understand tokens at that point, right? How governance tokens, user tokens, how NFTs for the DAO members, all of these 3 things will work. How will the tokenomics between them will work? All of those things, because see, this is not, the idea of Superwoman is not just to create an exclusive community, but to create an overall community which might have these sub-communities, basis user needs, basis geographies, basis whatever, all of those things. So the first initial thing was helping a lot of people understand that, okay, this right now, it's more of a community which will progress into a DAO as and when, however, we progress in our proposal and governance system. Like right now also, yes, there's a lot of public governance type of things that we do, but I won't say that we have like a snapshot pulled in as of this point, right? We're still figuring that part out. Our initial goal with Superwoman was to have that engaged community first, people who like being a part of that community, and then figure out all of these elements
Yeah.
contribution and all of that. So explaining it to some people who are, sort of OGs in the Web3 ecosystem, or some people who want to be part of a DAO and see, that was one of the challenges. So they'd be like, oh, this is yet another community. And I'm like, yeah, we never really professed. It's a DAO in the building. It cannot be like a full-fledged DAO on day one. Second thing is, how do you differentiate between members and contributors when you don't have a token, right? Like, and that differentiation is only important because a lot of people, out of good fit and good faith and goodwill, would want to contribute, right? But this is not something which is instantly rewarding in terms of money, it's not in employment. So then, how do you have that accountability from the members, right? We figure out, okay, who are the right set of contributors. First of all, scouting them. Second is, oh, how do you know their skills? Because in Web3, a lot of things are on-chain. And then, just asking for a LinkedIn profile or a Twitter profile makes no sense.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Reputation management and stuff. Third is like, okay, how do you do that work distribution and then a parallel incentive distribution against it for contributors? Like, how do you do deadlines for these? And these are just a couple of things which are faced from the contributor side. Second is, okay, now comes the governance part of things, right? Like, how do you really look at it? Like, what percentage, means a proposal is getting passed? These are some of the things which are sort of rigid. But what fluidity can you bring into these elements when you're building your own DAO? The thing is, okay, it's a DAO. How does it? It's not a startup entity where you're making something and it's not a service or a product that you're giving out to a user or a company and then you can get monetary value against it. It's still, it's not really a business model that way. So figuring out how will the treasury work, who will be sponsoring the treasury, right? Two big, sort of big thought processes that you can take here or can have here. One is that, okay, you join a protocol or an L1 and become their community arm. Or the second is you remain independent, but you keep partnering with a lot of people to sponsor the treasury. The third obvious one is obviously you have it sponsored by the community. But like I mentioned, right, you cannot launch a token on day one. Till then, how do you make these things work? And the fourth is like roles in the community in terms of contributors. Like there will be an early member who was your early evangelizer, but then comes another contributor who contributed more but wasn't an early evangelizer. How do you figure out roles of these people and all of those things? So those are some of the challenges that have been there. The last is now you've built a DAO. I built a DAO on the basis that, okay, these are all women in Web3, but everyone comes from a different space and all of them have a different needs, right? Some are part of Superwoman because they want to educate themselves. They want to learn about Web3. Some are there because they want to find other collaborators. Some are there because they want to find other women and learn from their journeys, how they made it to, in Web3 and at several positions. So all of these things are there. So how do you really define the one direction and mission for the DAO? Maybe you do multiple things, but one at a time. Yeah, these are some of the...
For sure.
A lot of
background noises on my end. Yes, apparently it has started raining heavily and that is why you see, I apologize everyone for the voice. Can you hear me? Otherwise
yeah, you're audible.
Okay, I apologize, please excuse that. Somehow natural things are just not in our control, but I would love for... Yes, and in Bangalore apparently it does rain like cats and dogs, so there it is. Yash, I would love for you to shed some light on some of the pain points Aditi mentioned in how to, take care of like these operational functionalities, whether it's like reputation management, how to assess properly, how to select contributors properly. I'd love for you to share your perspective on this. I'll also mute myself for less disturbance.
Perfect. Hey Devika, I'm audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. First of all, hey Aditi, thank you so much for joining us. It's brilliant. It's like super exciting to hear your journey building Superwoman DAO. I was checking out the entire Twitter profile for both you and the DAO. I love the thoughts which are being shared across. Super lovely. Regarding this particular aspect, right, over particularly when we talk about the on-chain reputation, there are pretty interesting models which we have seen across our communities, and I believe that we can over that, and a lot you would have also seen across. Primarily, if we were to categorize them, we can talk about them roughly into three categories. One is essentially like the capital-based reputation, where essentially whoever holds the highest amount of tokens about my DAO is at a better suited position. Then second is a social reputation, essentially. If someone like something on the lines of what Coordinate tries to do, that if you're working upon a project, how many people resonate with you, how many people agrees that you have contributed to what you have contributed, and the third can be like an activity-based reputation, which essentially is being tracked by a lot of players in the industry, such as SourceGrid for that matter is pretty popular. There is a D-Repute, which I believe translated into Web3, which essentially keeps a track, which is a very interesting model, if you ask me, where what they try to do is that they have this automation set up of all the different activities you do across different DAOs, Discord servers or forums or Twitter posts and so on. They keep a track of it. And essentially what they'll do is that they'll award you these reputation points for evaluating them again. Platforms, Show Karma and all are available, which keeps a track that across the community, what all, like who's contributing how much, and then that builds like an on-chain resume or a profile of them to evaluate that if you are working cross DAOs, like what, how much contribution you have done based upon what all involvement you have had in the past. So pretty interesting concepts coming up around this particular topic. Would love to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you feel around these?
Yeah, no, I definitely been, I had a conversation with Aviral also, figuring out, study repute, what they're trying to do, and then figuring and learning. Most of my learning in terms of structuring, in terms of figuring out the folks, is actually learning from other DAO members, whether it be some of the DAOs which are working out of India or some of the DAOs which are working out of, other parts of the world, and then they've been able to look at different sort of models. I mean, Cabin DAO is a very interesting example of what you mentioned, with capital-based reputation management. So that was interesting to see how they are trying to do it. Experts DAO is something that I don't like. I mean, my consulting firm, how we operate is basically that there are, including myself, there are 9 of us, and then projects come to us. And I mean, obviously, I am the centralized entity there because I am the one who talks to clients. I am the one who figures out, okay, out of these 8 people, this is the person who works on this particular project. And I'm the one through which the payments are processed. But I think, if it was done in a decentralized way, where, okay, we get to know, okay, this is a client that has approached us. We're looking to, get something done, whatever it could be, community strategy, marketing, and then amongst ourselves, among these 8-9 people, we can decide, okay, because everyone knows everyone's strengths, right? We've worked with each other for a while now, and then cool, then we can vote, and then that selection has happened. So that's an interesting way for contribution, deciding the contributors who suited for it, because that comes out of the fact that we've worked with each other for a while now. We've all seen each other, so we sort of up each other's, proof of skill and proof of competence. So that's super interesting to look at. So, expert DAO is something, when you're building a DAO of experts, everybody comes with their own identities, and then it's on them to maintain their reputation and all. So that's also very interesting when I look at Superwoman. So a couple of the experiments that we're doing in Superwoman, one is, of course, we're trying to build an investment sub-DAO. Women from the ecosystem can come in and they can put in checks. To start with grants, not funding, but for other women-led projects. Second is obviously what I'm just mentioning right now, right? Experts. Because we know everyone in the community, and there are a lot of women, especially in Web3, it's quite possible to work across multiple projects. So the idea is that, for one-off projects, for experts, then these requests could come to the DAO. The DAO becomes that salesperson. And then whenever these requests come in, all those who are there who are contributing as members amongst themselves, everyone can decide. So that's a very interesting way. There's the other thing that we're looking at for reputation is obviously how FWB works out of US, friends with benefits. The reputation there is entirely based on tokens. Once you have those tokens, you have that thing. But so that gives you the entry, but that doesn't give you the right to stay. Right? You have to keep contributing to the community. So everyone who buys tokens, as they contribute to more and more elements of it, and the token value increases, you can stay there. If not, you can actually sell your take tokens in the secondary market, or they will be usually politely asked give other people more role into it. So I think those are some of the broad thoughts which I've had in terms of successful workings of DAOs which are not investment DAOs. I have this, while working, I've had this thought that, okay, DAOs proven that, they're a great way to own and then take those decisions for ownership, like what do we buy, what do we sell, all of those things. The moment it comes about operations, doing things and services and expertise and development, I still think there's a long road for all of us to, develop a DAO is doing a great job with education. And I think next thing for them would be to have like a service DAO. These developer experts can actually outsource their offerings, and then the DAO can make the treasury, and everyone as part of the DAO can, make value out of it. So yeah, super early in terms of DAOs. Like even if you look at not just India but even globally, there are a lot of DAOs that are coming up, in some ways mushrooming, but to see that true activity and value coming out of it for members, contributors, everyone, that's going to be like, this year is going to be the year of DAOs, like how last year was the year of NFTs. If there was like a Chinese Web3 calendar, this would be the year of DAOs, I believe.
Absolutely, and that's entirely the premise we also operate under, that DAOs which are able to have this constant level of high engagement and alignment with the vision are the DAOs which are going to survive all these distractions which keep on happening in Web3. So super bullish upon that, and totally aligned with your ideas around that reputation management again is a very important system to help DAOs identify within their members that who are working most effectively, and then probably incentivize them or so on and so forth. There's a very interesting model by Super Team DAO. If you have followed them, they also have a very, very interesting model around reputation management, where it is the way they have it like a reputation squad for that matter, and then team leads who are able to assign those reputation points. One of the very, very effective models that how they are merging the social capital with the financial capital as well. So pretty interesting model.
Like I absolutely love what Super Team is doing. So I think they have multiple layers in terms of reputation, right? People who actively contribute to bounties, people who already have existing presence in Web3. Then you have those sheriffs for everything, like bounty sheriffs, so hey, but they also have these reputation sheriffs to onboard people and to, figure out. So I think what we're seeing right now is something which was like, and I don't want to be another person who says, oh, we're in that stage where Amazon was in 1999. But, that's how organizations were initially formed. Like, if you look at it, DAOs are like a much more sophisticated and glamorous featuring and like an advancement in how self-help groups and cooperative societies really work. If you look at Amul, it in a lot of ways, it works like a DAO right now. All of these cooperative societies, self-help groups, a lot of women communities in the country have worked in that way only. It's just that there was no legal structure and no on-chain structure to it. The token and the on-chain structure. So this is what DAO really introduces. And I have, like, while working on community and DAO, what I've realized is that, sort of DAOs are like a subset of community. Communities can be formed around, like, one or multiple common traits. Like, okay, both of us are women, cool, we can belong to a community. Both of us are in startup ecosystem, cool, we can belong to the startup community. Both of us are based out of Bangalore or like Pani Puri, we can belong to a community, Pani Puri enthusiasts. But for DAOs, just having people with similar traits sometimes may not really work as compared to having aligned use cases. Like if both of us are part of the DAO because we want to invest, so when the CTA is really aligned, that's when I see DAOs really being functional. If they're just based on traits, they might pick up. And honestly, that's what we've seen in our excitement for Web3. Like a lot of things pick up. So that to sustain, I think for DAOs to sustain, there needs to be aligned CTA. That okay, what is that CTA that all of the members, contributors want to act on or do together or achieve together? If you have that, DAO is a great tool for making decisions, for having ownership of your work, and then growing together. Everyone having skin in the game.
That's amazing. Aditi, I would love for you to talk about the importance of ownership. A lot of people can't attach themselves to that concept. Like I don't see the importance of ownership. Like I'm posting my stuff on social media anyway, and anyway more people are seeing it. So what is some of your perspective on the importance of why ownership is important?
So when we talk about ownership, right, it has to come from a point that will my ownership really make a tangible difference in my life, right? So I've always believed that sometimes there's a lot of this superficial level conversation happening, and the for the loss of better words, a lot of people where the whole ownership debate really started with NFT. That why do I want to own, a Bored Ape space? Like, what will I do with it? Am I really gonna make it a logo of my company? Am I really gonna do I really want to buy this expensive, a JPG to put on my T-shirt and stuff? And I still lie in the gray area there personally. But what I do believe with ownership is the moment it becomes a reason for my tangible, for a tangible benefit or an incentive to me, it makes a lot of sense. When you look at artists, right? Now when we talk about ownership of your own work, it's about their livelihood. It's not about me having, a nice identity that, okay, I own this. Exclusive access to communities, like exclusive access to events, to dark parties and all, that's great. But my feeling is if everyone has them and if everyone has access to multiple exclusive communities, are they really exclusive anymore? So there has to be more than that. I think ownership works in terms of selectivity for me. What is that ownership really indicating? Is it indicating something which is about a major aspect of your life, like livelihood? Yes, it's super important. Like nobody can really disable it. Today, if I'm posting a song on Spotify, I mean, Spotify being the organization, it has set the organization has set up the rules that how much will I get back for the content that I'm making. Like, most people think that, oh, I'm doing my personal brand on Instagram, which is helping me and everything, which is true, yes. But you're also creating a lot of content for that platform. But the platform works in such a way that you don't get anything. Like 100% of what you create is something that the platform owns and earns from. So now, if Instagram was my meaning of livelihood, then owning my content makes a lot of sense. That's how you see influencers working. Any influencer charging you for a reel, and any influencer charging you for a reel, and that reel to be used in their ad content, there will be a massive price difference. That's where ownership really becomes important. If it's something tangible, if it's something more of a status thing, or more of a recreation thing, or more of a more towards the glamorous and luxurious side of it, I think I've yet to see. I mean, of course, if I had the ownership of a Gucci bag, like I recently know that's what Prada started doing. And I mean, a lot of women and a lot of people, not just women actually, we started using Nika for cosmetics because of that one certificate. Nobody really went out and tried to verify that certificate, but the moment the product would come with that certificate, we'd be like, oh yeah, this is fine. I need to put on myself. So when you have validation and ownership like that, okay, that this particular thing is coming definitely from this person, that in the future could be something. So those are some of the areas where it can become a lot more important. Right now, in some areas I see there's like actual benefits of it. Some are sort of great.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very curious to know at Superwoman DAO, how are you guys currently managing all your tasks from onboarding to contribution to floating proposals to managing treasury? How does that look like for you on a day-to-day basis?
The concoction, I'll tell you, it's a massive soup of things. Every time we try to structure, we're like, cool, weekly meetings we're doing, we're going to be putting everything on Notion, we have roadmaps and stuff. A couple of people are not able to free themselves at that time, and then we're like, cool, let's move ahead. So I'll tell you, so far, and in all honesty, it's been me doing a lot of things, because also it's so early days right now. Like we are on onboarding, there are a couple of contributors who are very, very active. Who've taken up the reins, like, in terms of the website development, partnership side of things. People themselves showed interest, picked up, they created their own structures, and now they're following it. But in terms of the tasks and everything, it's mainly weekly calls and all of that. In terms of proposals, what's happening is it's mainly on the community itself. So we're like, cool, it's like polls and everything. Okay, what are your opinion on this? But those are more like speculative. But what do you think on it? The result of that may not be the actual proposal, because right now, like I said, we yet to identify what the exact offering of Superwoman. Because as much as I love the onboarding engine, and I would want to do, there needs to be a specific offering that, okay, today if I'm joining Superwoman, at least this thing I'm definitely sure of, which could be, okay, I'm really trying to get into Web3. So when it comes to events, education, and everything, these things are hard practices. But I'm building in Web3, grants is something that definitely I can crack to super. Or, if I'm a VC in Web3, meeting great founders and having that deal so is something that I can crack. If I'm a builder, hiring the right folks, trained folks from Web3 is something that super can crack. That once you have that direction, that's when having like a rigid proposal system, in my opinion, makes a lot more sense. Right now, incorporating everyone's opinion and then justifying also is the informed process.
Interesting. I can understand. It takes so many steps, so many different applications, so managing so many different people can be a real challenge. Proud of you for doing it. I know in such early days it is a challenge, but then that is also where so much of like leverage lies. So I think it's phenomenal.
There's always a first mover advantage. Like if we figure it out
100%.
first, and it's more of a process, right? Once you have that process for onboarding, for acting, for engaging, for contributing, for incentive, disbursement, all of those things. So that you can actually focus on advancing your cause or finding more women and bringing. Sometimes I also find myself limited. Okay, I can't really bring in these many women because we really have the holding strength, the resources for it. Yeah, a lot of my study time goes into just talking to people who are building or operating different DAOs and then educating myself on different structures and what could happen in terms of regulations and treasury and legal entities and all of those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Getting started.
100%. Yeah, like you said, last year was the year of NFTs, hoping that this year is of DAOs, and we have not even like remotely seen what DAOs are capable of. So I think it's very, very exciting to see what these communities can tangibly in real life achieve. Few of the last questions I'd like to ask you is, what's your why to being in crypto? Why not like AI? Why not other areas of technology? Like why crypto?
Well, I don't understand them. First of all, it's like going to school all over again. And do I want to do that? No. It just feels like when I got into crypto, it feels like everyone's a newbie here, right? So it's not like some people have already achieved the veteranship or that wisdom, and now I'm just gonna start. It's like cool, the technology exists, and now I'm starting to get into Bollywood. In crypto, it feels like everybody is like an Alia Bhatt right now, and all of us are gonna be just starting and making. I mean, sorry for such stupid analogies, but they just came to my mind. Alia Bhatt is sort of already established. Probably when you were a star, I don't know a lot of Bollywood folks. Like the cricket analogy for it, like would be Virat Kohli, and then some new cricket star. I don't follow cricket, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So something like that. When you know that everybody is there and nobody is just like too ahead of on a personal level, and I can also get there. That's one thing. Second thing is crypto is not all just about technology, right? Technology becomes an enabler, but community also plays a very important role. Product also plays a very important role. When we talk about other elements like AI and all of those fields, it is technology. It's like, technology will always be the main aspect of it. Coding will always be the main aspect of it. But when you look at crypto, when it's an NFT project, it's design, which is the protagonist. When it's community, the storytelling, which is the protagonist. When it's DeFi, it's the financial concepts, the protagonist. So it just felt like a more inclusive space for me where I could go and sort of make a difference and enjoy while doing it.
That's amazing. I love that. Before I ask you the last question, I'd love to ask anyone in the community, do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask Aditi? That's the most amazing part about participating live in the Discord chats, like you can interact with our guests. So now is the time to type in your questions. And just because we hate awkward silences, you have 15 seconds to type your questions. I'm just kidding. Please feel free to ask your questions. You will not be able to unmute yourselves, but you can definitely type in the chat. Meanwhile,
Part of Bangalore are you in? There is raining so bad. I'm in Koramangala and things just seem to be fine for me.
oh,
Or
I'm
am
in
I
Indranagar.
Or it's probably just raining outside, but I have no clue of it because I'm so deep inside the WeWork nest right now.
Well, that's super nice because it is raining quite heavily. Okay, I don't feel like we have any questions. I just say thanks everyone so much for joining. And Aditi, on the last note, would you have any advice for people wanting to understand DAOs better so that they can leverage it, or people who just have this sense of community that they want to build, have this mission that they want to take forward? How is it that they can start?
Have a couple of those top of the mind thoughts. First is that if you're starting to learn about DAOs right now, you're at a great space, right? Because like I said, it might, because you're in Web3, it might seem like, oh, there's just so many people right now, but that's not the case really. There are a lot of people who're just getting into this space right now, and you could be one of the first people who really understands it and then leverages it in terms of whether building a DAO, understanding it, operating it, building the regulations around it. I don't know, so many things that can happen. So that really learner advantage, not just even a mover, makes a lot of sense. Second is how do you really learn about DAOs is it's a mix. It's not just, oh, you keep joining DAOs and DAO servers. You have to, you should, but you should make a choice because everyone knows that spending 1,000 Discord servers but not deriving any value out of it makes no sense. What do those 5,000 messages at the end of the day really mean if there are so many? So
Yeah.
making those conscious choice that, okay, these are the DAOs that I think I can either contribute and I can build into these things and then join and then see how they're operating, what they're talking about, what their proposals look like. Third is the report. I am a nerd and I think knowing the academics gives you an idea, okay, what's happening. It may not give you the idea of what's picking up and not, so what's hot and what's not. This really happens through the conversations with people and at events and stuff. But what is that entire lay of the land really looks like? There are some really great reports by A16Z, by TechCrunch, some amazing articles out there. I'm sure DaoLens is going to be creating like a series of articles, newsletters, and all of those and that, joining content out there. So just making sure that, okay, you subscribe to these newsletters every single day. You can pick up 1 5-minute read or something like that, and then you just keep learning about it, asking your questions. Fourth is just be part of the right communities, because I think my Web3 learning has just come out of the fact that, when I'm part of the right, any community, so to say, with decent folks from Web3, whenever I have a question, I can just go ahead and post and ask. I don't really have to rely on Google or the fact that 2 days later I'm setting up a call with someone and then meeting them a week later. So just having that element in your life where you are part of something which is working towards this, like a DAO Web3 community, and then asking those questions. So that's there. So like a good mix of knowing some people, being present on social media, whether it be through an alt account or whatever, because that's where a lot of things you can follow DAOs as lists, DAOs as hashtags, some of the accounts. Third is, just going through the academics, the functionals, the whys, the whats of it, like where DAOs have proven to work, where they haven't, what are the gaps that we see, what are the opportunities to build, what are the challenges from the academics and from people who are building, what are some of the areas where you can build a DAO, because not everywhere where you can build a DAO, you can build a community, but everywhere that you can build a community, you cannot build a DAO. And that's like something which I've told too many people, and not a lot of people have really liked it. But in my experience, I found it to be true. If you think that, okay, just one common trait can really lead you to building a successful DAO, all my wishes, but I just in personal experience think it will be something difficult. Yeah, right now is a great time to just be doing anything. And if you feel you have these extra hours and effort, then become a contributor to any DAO, whichever DAO you want to be part of. There are amazing DAOs. There's Padawan DAO that being a part of it qualifies you for scholarships to a lot of conferences. Be a part of Cabin DAO, where people put out proposals of which wooden cottage do we want to go and live and work from. So some really interesting. There's a Praxis Society, which is going to be a city DAO that's being picked up. So just follow some of these early projects. There's Superwoman DAO. I'm sure DaoLens is going to create a community of its own. There's Super Team DAO. A lot of these. So whatever resonates with you, just become a part of it. If not as a contributor, then definitely at least as an engager and a lurker.
Yeah, I love that advice so much. To be part of DAOs, to consciously make a decision to every day just deploy 5 to 10 minutes to learn about stuff, and not join random Discord servers, because that is not going to bring a lot of value. So 100% point noted. Thank you so much, Aditi, for sharing such valuable advice. It was so exciting to have you, learn from you, rooting from you from you, rooting for you for everything that you're building and everything you stand for. Any ending thoughts?
I've had a wonderful time. I mean, I loved how process-driven this whole thing was. And, you know, the person reaching out to you, setting up the call and everything. Absolutely love what DaoLens is doing, and I'm really looking forward to to understanding what DAO onboarding means. I have my own thoughts. Okay, that when they're saying DAO onboarding, because people are not used to the structures, they're actually going to be introducing people to how do you be in a DAO. It's more like coming of age, those coming of age parties that you're introduced into a society. This is something like you're formally being introduced to a DAO, sort of being a buddy program to all those people who really want to explore it in different capacities. So exciting times ahead for both of us and our teams together. And for the ecosystem overall, there's just too many changes happening. Sometimes I hate it that it moves so much. Most of the times I love it that it moves so fast. If you make a mistake in something else, you can always put it on, oh, it just changed. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Devika, and the team.
Of course, it was a pleasure to host you. As a token of gratitude, we would love to just share early access to our product so you can tangibly see what onboarding looks like. We've shared with our community, we've integrated our product to our Discord, so you onboard to our Discord to get personalized channels and stuff. Would be super excited to share with you. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone else, for joining. Thank you, Aditi, for just being amazing and doing amazing things. Looking forward to keeping in touch with you, and you will get a follow-up email super soon.
Thank you so much. It was totally a lot
Of course. Okay, have a great rest of the week. Reach out to me if there's any way I can add value and stuff, and I would just love to connect you to a product or sales folks who can give you early access to the product. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Amazing. Bye. Bye.